Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole bunch of sources, articles, notes, you name it, and really pull out the key takeaways for you.
Yep, our mission is always to help you get up to speed quickly and, genuinely well-informed on a topic.
And today we're diving into essential English vocabulary specifically for travel. We've looked at source material focused on those core words.
Exactly. Words designed to help you speak and understand English more confidently, whether you're just planning a trip or, right there in the airport or exploring a new place.
That's right. We're aiming to cover about 25 words that our sources flag as, well, pretty crucial.
And for each one, we'll give you a clear definition, a real-world example showing how it's used, and a bit of context on why it's important for travelers.
Think of it as building that travel confidence one word at a time.
Precisely. It's all about the practical language you'll actually hear and need to use. So, let's jump right in. Where do we start? Maybe before you even leave home.
Sounds good. Okay, let's unpack the first few words. Starting with, well, probably the most vital document for any international trip. Passport.
Right. So the sources define a passport simply as a government-issued document. It certifies your identity and your nationality. Basic stuff, but essential.
And you'll definitely hear the example. Don't forget to bring your passport to the airport. Probably hear it multiple times.
Yeah. It's your official proof, who you are, where you're from. You absolutely need it to cross international borders.
Okay. And sometimes, linked to that, you might also need a visa.
Ah, yes, the visa. It's an official permit, basically, that lets you enter or even stay in a foreign country. It's often in addition to your passport.
Right. So the example given is she applied for a student visa to study in Canada. Makes sense.
And the key thing here, the context the sources really stress is that visa requirements, they vary massively. Depends on your nationality, where you're headed, why you're going, tourism, work, study.
So checking that well in advance is crucial.
Absolutely. Don't leave that to the last minute. That's a common piece of advice.
Good point. Okay, planning ahead. Another thing sources often recommend sorting out beforehand is travel insurance.
Travel insurance, it's a policy, right? Covers costs and risks that might pop up while you're traveling.
And the example, they bought travel insurance in case of emergencies, really gets to the heart of it.
It really does. The context is all about financial protection. If you have a medical emergency overseas or your trip gets canceled, maybe your luggage gets lost.
Peace of mind.
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Peace of mind is invaluable when you're far from home.
Okay, so we're planning. How do you keep track of everything? Flights, hotels, activities. That's where your itinerary comes in.
The itinerary, yeah. Sources describe it as a detailed plan or schedule for your trip.
Like, our itinerary includes visits to 3 different cities. Sounds like a proper plan.
It is. It just helps you stay organized, keeps track of dates, times, locations for everything. It's basically your travel roadmap.
Makes sense. And part of that plan, usually, is figuring out where you're going to sleep. So a hotel reservation.
Right. A hotel reservation is, well, exactly what it sounds like. A booking you make ahead of time to stay at a hotel.
Simple enough.
Okay.
Example. We confirmed our hotel reservation online. Very common these days.
It is, and the context is just making sure you actually have a guaranteed place to stay when you arrive at your destination. Don't want to be scrambling for a room.
Definitely not. Okay, so documents, plan, insurance, place to stay.
Yeah.
Check. Now you actually need to pack your things, which brings us to luggage.
Luggage, yep.
Yeah.
Defined simply as bags or suitcases, the things you use for carrying your personal belongings when you travel.
In the example, his luggage was too heavy to carry alone. We've all been there, maybe.
Probably. The context is just, it's everything you pack, isn't it? Clothes, toiletries, maybe space for souvenirs you plan to buy.
Right, and often part of that luggage setup might be a backpack.
Ah, the backpack. A bag you carry on your back, very popular with travelers for good reason.
Example, she kept her essentials in a backpack during the hike.
Yeah, the context there is practicality, really. It's hands-free, great if you're doing something active like hiking, or just using it as a smaller day bag around the city.
Okay, now if you're flying, you usually divide your luggage, right?
Yep.
Stuff you check in and stuff you keep with you. That second kind is your carry-on.
Exactly, the carry-on. That's the smaller bag you're allowed to take inside the airplane cabin with you.
And the example, he packed only a carry-on to avoid baggage fees. That's a big motivator.
Oh, absolutely. The context is, it's the bag you keep with you on the plane. Usually holds essentials, valuables. But there are rules, right? Size limits, weight limits, they differ quite a bit between airlines.
Always worth checking those.
Definitely. And speaking of packing, especially for international trips, electronics, you might need a travel adapter.
Oh, good call. Yes, a travel adapter. That's the little device that lets you plug your electronics into outlets in a different country.
And the example is perfect.
Mhm.
Don't forget a travel adapter for your charger. Essential advice.
Because the context, as the sources point out, is that electrical outlets are not the same everywhere. You need this little gadget to actually connect and charge your phone, your laptop, whatever, safely.
Crucial. Okay, so you've packed everything, got your adapter. Now let's think about getting to the airport and the whole flying process. You'll need a ticket.
Right, a ticket. The sources say it's a document giving you access to travel or maybe an event.
Yeah, like the example, we bought our train tickets online. Shows it's not just for flights. Trains, buses, concerts.
The context is it's your proof of purchase, right? Your permission to board that specific plane or train or get into that venue.
Exactly. Now, you get to the airport with your ticket. What's usually the first step for your flight? Check in.
Check in. The process of registering when you arrive could be at a hotel or, in this case, the airport.
Let's check in at the counter before dropping our bags. That's a typical scenario.
Right. And the context is basically telling the airline, hey, I'm here, and confirming your seat.
Although, lots of sources mention you can often do this online beforehand now. Saves a lot of time at the airport.
Definitely worth doing if you can. So after you check in, you get your boarding pass.
The boarding pass. Our source calls it a document that allows you to enter the plane. Pretty straightforward.
And the example, you'll need your boarding pass and ID at the gate. That's standard procedure.
Yep. Its context is simple. It's your permission slip to get on that specific flight. Shows your seat number, the gate, boarding time, all that crucial info.
Got it. Now let's talk about the timing of the flight itself. You have the departure time.
Departure. It's just the act of leaving. Usually refers to flights, trains, buses.
And the example, the departure time has been delayed by 2 hours. Uh-oh.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a phrase many travelers know too well. The context is simply the scheduled time your flight is meant to leave the gate.
And the opposite end of that journey is the arrival.
Arrival. The act of reaching your destination. Getting where you're going.
Example, the flight's arrival is expected at 5:00 p.m., hopefully on time.
Hopefully. So that's the scheduled time you're supposed to land at your destination.
In destination. That's just the place where someone is going.
Exactly. Paris is our final destination. Simple as that.
Context. It's your endpoint, where the journey finishes up.
But sometimes, as we hinted with departure times, things don't quite go according to schedule. You might hit a delay.
The dreaded delay. A period of time when something happens later than expected.
Like the train had a 30-minute delay.
Yeah, the context is pretty obvious, isn't it? Your travel plans are running late, something everyone hopes to avoid. But good to know the word.
For sure. Okay, let's fast forward. You've landed, maybe after a delay, maybe not. You're at your international destination. Before you can really start exploring, you usually have to go through customs.
Customs. Our sources define this as an authority, the officials who check goods and people entering a country.
And the example, we had to declare some items at customs, points right to what happens there.
Yeah, the context is, this is where government officials check what you're bringing into their country. Make sure it's legal, that you're following the rules. Sometimes you have to declare things like certain foods, large amounts of cash, expensive gifts.
Right. It's about controlling what crosses the border. Once you're through customs, though, you might need local money. That often means finding a currency exchange.
A currency exchange. A place where you convert your money into the local currency.
Like, they exchanged dollars for euros at the airport currency exchange. A very common first stop for many.
Absolutely. The context is vital if you're going somewhere with different money. You need to swap your home currency for the currency they use there.
Okay, so you're officially in the country. You've got some local cash. Now you can start exploring. And as someone visiting for pleasure, you are essentially a tourist.
A tourist. A person traveling for pleasure.
The city is full of tourists during the summer. You hear that a lot.
Right. If you're there on vacation, seeing the sights, soaking up the culture, that's you. You're a tourist. Context is pretty clear.
And to help you find your way around as a tourist, you might use a map.
The map. A diagram showing directions or locations.
We used a map to find the nearest museum. Classic use case.
Whether it's an old school paper map or, more likely now, a digital one on your phone, the context is navigation. It's your tool for figuring out where you are and how to get where you want to go.
Definitely. And sometimes, instead of just a map, you might want a person to help you understand the place. A travel guide.
or a travel guide. This is a person who provides information and tours for visitors.
Our travel guide showed us the historical sites.
So the context here is specifically a person, often someone you hire, who helps tourists explore and understand a place. They share history, local knowledge.
As opposed to a guidebook.
Ah, yes. A guidebook. That's a book with information for travelers.
The guidebook suggested the best local restaurants.
Its context is being a published resource, right? Full of recommendations, attractions, food, history, practical tips about your destination. Very useful for planning your days.
Very handy. And finally, after all that exploring, seeing sights, eating food, you might want to buy a little something to remember the trip. A souvenir.
A souvenir. An item you keep as a memory from your trip.
She bought a souvenir from every place she visited. Some people love collecting them.
Yeah. The context is it's a memento, isn't it? A little physical reminder of your travels, the experiences you had.
Exactly. Oh, and one more practical one, actually, circling back to getting around, especially to and from the airport at your destination. An airport shuttle.
Oh, yeah, good one. An airport shuttle. That's usually a bus or van service running between the airport and, say, hotels or city centers.
The hotel provides a free airport shuttle. That's a nice perk.
It is. The context is that it's a convenient transport option, often scheduled, specifically designed for getting travelers between the airport and their accommodation or other key spots.
Makes arrival and departure a bit smoother.
Definitely. And wow, okay, there you have it. We've managed to deep dive into 25 essential English travel words, all drawn from our source material. We tried to group them logically around the stages of a trip.
And hopefully, understanding these words really can give you a significant confidence boost when you're dealing with travel in English. Booking, packing, navigating airports, exploring. It touches all of it.
It really does. It's about having the language tools you need to handle the practical side of things and just feel a bit more comfortable out there.
Absolutely. Now, our source called these words essential for travel logistics, which kind of makes you think, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, it leads to a thought for you, the listener. What other words or phrases do you think are absolutely essential? Maybe not just for the logistics, but for navigating a new place once you arrive, interacting with locals, ordering food, asking for directions.
Ah, interesting point. Beyond the airport and the hotel booking, what vocabulary truly opens up the world for you when you're actually in it? Something to think about.